Hey guys, I was recently a guest on Baby Seal's stream and I had a fantastic conversation with him, Sleepezi, and Bltzz about Final Fantasy VII Remake. It was an incredible, positive conversation, so much fun if you guys haven't seen that. And one of the topics that we covered and what we got into was the backstory of Sephiroth, and more importantly, some of the secrets of his past. Like, where does the Masamune come from? Why does it appear like it's a Wutai weapon? And how did Sephiroth become the greatest hero on Earth, essentially, and in history? So it's very, very fun, intriguing questions. And I actually came up with a really cool idea that everybody seems to be enjoying a lot. And these guys were pretty excited about. So I'm going to play the clip from that. And I've also included some of my other thoughts at the end concerning the Masamune and what I think is some of the mysterious powers that this weapon has that we haven't really heard too many details about. So if you've been enjoying my Final Fantasy VII Remake content, as well as my other cinematic reactions to gaming, please make sure to subscribe. We're almost at 10K subs here on my second YouTube channel. And of course, make sure to stop over on Twitch if you want to chat live about this stuff. And check out my main channel if you want to learn martial arts like Tifa. And let me know if you agree with this idea, if you think this would be cool, or if you want something different. Or if you're of the camp that says you don't want a backstory for Sephiroth, it would actually ruin it. Let me know. Yeah, my name is Philip. I am a filmmaker who grew up playing Final Fantasy. Something I'm looking forward to, I've talked about this a ton in my videos, is I really want a Sephiroth backstory, because it doesn't exist. There is no Sephiroth backstory. Like, I want to see like the Iliad of this world, which would be, the Wutai War. Like, we hear about it a lot, but like, what the hell happened on the field of the on the front lines? Like, how did Sephiroth become the strongest hero? Like, I want to see his like Achilles moment where, and this is another thing I've realized, I haven't really heard anyone talk about this, is notice all the people use Western weapons in Shinra, right? Cloud, I guess, the vaguely Western weapons, a big chunk of berserk looking steel, but weapons like guns and everything. Why does Sephiroth have a katana? What's the only place in the world which has Asian influence is Wutai, right? So I had this theory. It's like, man, I want to see like, Sephiroth's Achilles moment where, not only diving into his humanity, but say his like Hector to his Achilles was the greatest warrior of Wutai, right? Because Sephiroth, how do you become the greatest warrior on Earth? You kill the greatest warrior on Earth, right? You defeat him. So I was like, what if we have this Hector to Sephiroth's Achilles? And it's almost like this, what is Sephiroth's entire life? He's lonely because he's too powerful. Like, he's almost, he realizes he's not a human eventually, essentially, but he's so powerful, he's so alone in his power that imagine if we had this moment where he beats and defeats this guy and they've had this like long clash, this long rivalry, and he kills this Hector of Wutai. And, the Masamune is his. It's his weapon. He's the greatest warrior. It's the strongest weapon of Wutai. And imagine we have this beautiful tragic scene where he kills him. And then he thinks he's victorious, very similar to Achilles. He thinks he's victorious, but he's also kind of killed himself. And that's of course the famous imagery of Hector steals Achilles' armor from Patroclus. So Achilles, when he fights Hector, he's actually wearing Achilles' old armor. So visually he is killing himself when he kills Hector. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing, right? Such a beautiful idea, and of course he does. He seals his fate. But imagine that with Sephiroth, he gets the Masamune, and then as this guy dies, he realizes like that's the only guy who could have understood me, like another powerful warrior. Something like that. So again, just vague, cool ideas I thought of, but imagine anything in that vein, like even somewhat like that, where we just figure out, like, I want to see Sephiroth, man, his actual humanity, as opposed to just like, I am calm, powerful dude, and then I lose my mind. I would love to see that. Please.
Hell
It's funny that
I
you
fucking love that.
Yeah, I was about to echo that same thought. I think that's mainly what like Genesis and Angeal sort of represent to Sephiroth to a degree as well, is that these are
Right.
the only people he can be associated with because they're the only one who kind of understand where he's coming from, even though he's already like so out there in terms of like power and like even like just his intelligence, even like he's very distant, it feels like, even though he is around friends, like he doesn't have like these full-fledged relationships even in that. So it would be, and it seems like we're kind of getting that with Ever Crisis a little bit, so
Yeah.
that'll be interesting.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so for context for the audience, what he's talking about is that Nojima penned a little short, like a a segment of Ever Crisis that is about Sephiroth's childhood, like his origin. And so we're going to get some more backstory for Sephiroth too to help
Please,
humanize him,
Yeah.
because the characters are being converted to opaque characters, to full characters. They had to be opaque.
Exactly.
They were, you didn't have time to explore the characters the way that they did. So
Not enough data, on the disc.
yeah, and there's a certain strength to that. Like Sakaguchi likes to talk about negative space. Like, it lets
Imagination.
it lets the imagination fill in those gaps. But I'm actually more impressed with what the creators thought for the characters, what the creators thought the characters really were, and my own imagination filled them in.
Something that always interested me was that Sephiroth was always closer, as it seems, to Professor Gast than he was with Hojo.
Yes.
And he
Very true.
referenced this last night when I was playing through the Nibelheim flashback. When him and Cloud go to investigate the reactor, the first thing he says is, "This is the work of Hojo," and he laughs and he says, "Hojo, no matter what you do, this will never make you better than Professor Gast."
Yes.
Awesome.
It's something that's so interesting to me because it seems like Gas is, besides Angel and Genesis, was like Professor Gas is like the only other person that Sephiroth really respects or has this sort of like mentorship or ideology towards, and I want to see exactly how that does come to form, with Gas being Aerith's father, right? And I want to see how that, and it's kind of poetic in a way because he does kill Aerith. Spoiler alert. But I think that's
No way.
what? I think that's gonna be something really cool. Seeing more backstory on Professor Gas and his relationship with Sephiroth growing up in the Shinra building. If Sephiroth grew up in the Shinra building, and I mean,
we don't even know. Yeah.
like what was his childhood like? Are we gonna see stuff like that? I would love to see that.
That's
Yeah.
really funny.
I'm on such like a Sephiroth like trip right now because of what Phil said about his backstory with Wutai. I think that's such a really good direction that it could take, and I love to see more deeper elements like that explored with the character too.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the Masamune, man, I thought of it. I was like, wait a second. Hold on now. This is very fascinating. That's a Wutai weapon. No other place on Earth, man. So what I'm saying is like they're having such an attention to detail that I don't think they would really overlook that. I mean, again, not every like weapon needs some crazy reveal story or something, but I mean, like, where did he get it from? Why does he have a Wutai weapon? That's actually a pretty interesting detail, right? So I think something like that would be great. And again, he's a tragic character. He's the Anakin Skywalker of Final Fantasy. He's this beautiful war hero, good man who kind of loses his way and becomes very upset with everybody and feels alone, like so alone that he just says, "Screw it, like I'll be completely alone." And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think even in the future, I would love to see that. And they've already laid the groundwork for it, man. Like, what? Sephiroth is still lonely, man. In the end, at the edge of creation, he says, like, I want you to join me. And so it's like, what? So interesting. Like, what's going on there? And that's a whole other conversation. But
I want to be inside of you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, let him clap, man. Let him clap.
The guy that's just as
He
strong
needs to
as
do.
him.
Let him clap cheeks. Yeah.
Yeah,
But you know what I mean? Like, it's just the one time. And I mean, nobody's out there in the edge of creation. Yeah, it's just I'm really curious what's going to happen with that. And I would love to see that explored more. I don't want him to just be like this completely stoic, cool, I have the live stream powers and I don't need to be a human anymore. I would love to see him explain himself or be able to have those moments with Cloud, which I mean we're already getting. So
yeah,
I think it's going to be cool.
This is this like I hate to like because this is I wasn't thinking that I was going to be super into the idea of like a Sephiroth anything, honestly. Like I think that he's really like sort of planted as the villain of the story and probably would be even with the backstory. But every time I've heard this idea pitched like in comments or whatever, I've always been against it. But I think the way that you guys both just framed it, I can 100% see it now for like the first time. Like I totally get it. And I think there's actually a lot there to support that already sort of happening in the compilation too, because like I did really quickly want to bring up the Gas thing, because one of the things that even drove Gas to make Sephiroth to begin with is he wanted a Cetra. He wanted to create a Cetra, which Sephiroth ends up not being, and Aerith does. So it's like, oh, I failed here. Like maybe like he was more invested in Sephiroth knowing that he was like gonna be like the next, you know, like the I don't know, like a god of some kind or like something that would help humanity. And then he bails, and then he just goes and with Afalna, and then makes Aerith. So I wonder what the perception of that entire thing is to Sephiroth to some degree. Is like he's kind of abandoned by even the people that he admires to a degree. Like Gast wanted nothing to do with the project, so he just leaves. The other thing I will say is that there are like mother issues already just in the original game that Sephiroth has, and everybody sort of has that same like I've mentioned this before in other podcasts, but like there's like this missing mother or like missing family sort of dynamic that these characters have, and like the characters in remake/OG, the party sort of have that sort of unifying factor to them. Barrett has like Marlene and all the Dyne stuff. Sephiroth has like this really like very like disconnected relationship to like something that we can't even fully understand, which is Genova. And it's like that's where he's getting his sort of like his togetherness, so to speak. But in Advent Children, Kadaj has that same mentality, and he's a piece of Sephiroth, where he's actively seeking out like some sort of mother, and he kind of confuses them with the planet a little bit. Like he confuses Genova or Sephiroth for the planet, like a lot of the functions. Like we know materia comes from the planet, and Laz asks Kadaj like, what are these? Like, where do these come from? And he's like, oh, our mother made these. So there's like this weird blurring of lines that's constantly happening, and I would love to see that sort of expanded on to a degree, just to elaborate on that.
There are ways, and I think they will nail this, to create a character that is as human and inhuman as is necessary to fill the void that Sephiroth needs to be. He is a foil for the protagonists, not just one, all of them. And although this is Cloud's story, there are multiple protagonists, and like I would love them to expand on the pettiness of Sephiroth, like that there was this potential like paternal motive for him to target Aerith is really fascinating, and it's a way for them to like really dive into him. Like I'm kind of with Sleepezi. I get grossed out at the idea of a Sephiroth redemption arc. And I don't think that's where they're going. But again, all about execution. All about execution.
That resentment towards Aerith because Gas.
That exactly that.
Yeah,
he's like, I'm gonna kill this bitch one day.
Exactly.
It's a full circle.
And
it's the full circle of it.
He gets the knowledge. He gets the truth. He learns that he's not an ancient in the live stream. So he presumably gets the understanding of what really went down with Afalna and what Aerith really becomes. And like, I would love to see that stuff explored, and they certainly can.
So what do you guys think about that? Do you want to see a similar backstory or not? For me, man, I thought more about this after this conversation. But yeah, I can picture it. Picture this scene where, again, the Hector to Sephiroth's Achilles, right? This warrior in Mutai who wields the Masamune. Picture the scene where he was, if he was able to defeat him, and then kind of reluctantly takes up the Masamune as his war prize, again in sort of the Greek tradition, right? Takes up his war prize, and it has a deeper meaning for him and his character. So I think it'd be a lot of fun. Also, I've been learning more. I just learned recently about the figure of Masamune in Japanese history. He's like this super powerful, one-eyed warlord who rose to power during the Sengoku era. And I wonder if that was also an inspiration for kind of making the sword so powerful. Maybe we could see a reference to that. If he was to fight this Wutai warrior who wielded the Masamune, I think it'd be a cool reference to the historical figure. If he did have maybe an eye patch, one eye, I think that'd be a really cool detail to add. What do you guys think? I couldn't stop thinking about the Masamune. One of the things that stood out to me right away near the ending of FF7 Remake over on that highway is it's that scene where Sephiroth is on the highway and there's this big wall of whispers, and he actually just slices right through them, and he creates like this white, this dark portal at first, and then Aerith actually kind of purifies it, which is cool when she goes up to it. But he creates this like portal. But I guess the significant part of it is, that power aside, is that this weapon, whether it's from him wielding it or its own powers, if that would work with anyone wielding it or just with him wielding it, he literally cuts through fate itself and then walks right through it like it's nothing. And that is such a powerful image. It's such a poetic and powerful image. Like, think about that. What a cool concept, right? And now when we look at even the scenes where Jesse falls down the stairs, right, and the Whispers are fighting and everything, look at how hard it is. Look at how difficult it is even to resist these Whispers, and how difficult it is to even interact with them. They're just kind of like these incorporeal entities, right? So I think it's super significant that he can do that, and I think it's actually going to lend itself to maybe giving us some hints of the extent of these powers, and maybe just how powerful he is, because that's a really intense concept. So let me know if you guys agree. Let me know what you think. I'm really into, and I actually minored in classical studies, so I know a whole lot about the Iliad, and I'm constantly inspired by it. So I would love to see something like that personally. And again, people have said that they would rather there's just no backstory, that it remains ambiguous. But it's kind of like Clark said, they had to be opaque characters before allowing your imagination to fill in the blanks. I think this time around, let's dive deep. Let's make these like the best written, the best known characters in gaming, kind of reclaim that mantle. I'd like to see them fully fleshed out. I'd like to see that kind of Anakin Skywalker angle with him falling from grace and being powerful. But more importantly, I want to see his rise to power. I want to see him deal with that loneliness that we hear so much about. Again, I think coming full circle, that would really have a lot more impact if we saw what it did to him when he was younger. So let me know if you agree. I'll be putting more snippets from this conversation, this legendary conversation, up on the channel here. If you did miss it, please go show support to SchrondingersBabySeal. Absolute fantastic guy, and such a warm welcome by his community. And of course, check out the other boys, Sleepezi, Bltzz, all good people, and hope to be collabing with them more in the future as we enjoy, integrate in the following content that ensues. So you guys have a great day. Make sure to sub, drop over by Twitch if you want to say hi, and check out my documentary on my main channel if you want to see how I lived as a Shaolin warrior monk. It's a lot of fun. Anyways, have a good day.